My name is Greg Bogosian, and I love everything about New England. Each week, I travel the region searching for adventure. And along the way, I visit the places and the people that make New England extraordinary. This is New England like you've never seen it before. This is New England Traveler. When you think of Plymouth, Massachusetts, you may think of Plymouth Rock, history, and the Pilgrims arriving to the New World. I'm going to explore all of that. But what I'm here for, specifically, are the hidden gems of Plymouth, Mass. My first stop in this historic town is to check into the appropriately named Hotel 1620. Tom Anderson invited me to stay at this comfortable hotel by the ocean. Tom, tell me a little bit about the Hotel 1620 at Plymouth Harbor.
So we're one of South Shore's biggest premier meeting and events spaces with over 15,000 feet of meeting space. We're also very excited to be adding a splash pad, which will have 2 or so water slides and a couple different water features to complement our brand new pool and expanded hot tub.
What do you want guests to expect when they arrive?
We really wanted to deliver that experience of being able to park your car when you check in and not have to see your car again until checkout. We have multiple restaurants, great shops, and on top of the historical items in Plymouth, all within walking distance of our front door.
Not only is Hotel 1620 Plymouth Harbor downtown and on the water, meaning it's very easy to access all the historic attractions, restaurants, shopping, there is an awesome shopping place right across the street.
So working with about 26 boutique ownerships down there, we're really looking forward to putting our Lean Chris philosophy on down there and just driving sales down there, and also being able to deliver our current guests a better experience of having shops, restaurants, and there's even an ice cream shop down there as well.
No, Tom, I have not been to Plymouth since I was a little kid, and this is my first time back to this historic city in many years. So technically I consider it my first trip to Plymouth, and I'm really excited that the Hotel 1620 Plymouth Harbor invited us to stay here, and I can't wait for my trip to begin.
Well, we're honored to have you, and we look forward to hosting you.
Directly across from the Hotel 1620 is a quaint shopping village that is full of shops, places to eat, oh yeah, and photo ops. I am here at Village Landing Marketplace right in downtown Plymouth, which is also coincidentally right on the water. This actually reminds me a lot of the Farmers Market in Hollywood, California, which is located right on 3rd and Fairfax. This happens to be a little bit more colonial than that, but still an amazing shopping and dining experience. My first day in Plymouth is off to a solid start, and I'm already getting hungry. Jay Kimball invited me to Wood Seafood to enjoy lunch with the best view in town. Jay, tell me a little bit about the history of Wood Seafood right here on the water in Plymouth.
Original building was constructed back in 1940, added on back in the 50s, went through 2 subsequent owners. I purchased it in 1989. The economy in 1989 was really poor. The waterfront in Plymouth needed a lot of work. I just happened to buy a great business with a great location at what appeared to be today at the right time. And I've expanded the business and grown the business over the past 35 years to what it is today.
Well, Plymouth is obviously full of history, and it's nice to see a business like Woods that's been here for 80 years still thriving right here in the waterfront. That's an amazing thing.
Because of the location. We serve seafood on the water in a historic harbor. We get local product during the summer and the fall and in the spring, and it works out well for everybody that comes here.
I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think it tastes better if you're eating seafood on the water. And you have a fish market and you have the fish seafood restaurant.
Yes, so the fish market caters to a really great group of local customers that come back here on a regular basis. And we're small, we only have 55 seats inside. They all face the water, they all have the background of the harbor and the Mayflower II, and it's a great location.
I love fried scallops. I really do love fried clams. And lobster roll, what about that? Can I get one of those, you think?
Absolutely, we'd be more than happy to. Fresh lobster meat that we cook and shuck on a daily basis.
That's incredible, I love it. Well, I can't wait to try all this delicious seafood here at Woods. Jay Kimball, thank you so much for inviting me and my crew down to Woods Seafood. I can't wait to try it.
Thank you for coming.
Jay brought out some amazing looking seafood here, the fried scallops, the fried clams, and a delicious looking lobster roll. Let's dig in first to the scallop. I'm gonna squeeze some lemon on that. Definitely very light batter. You really taste the full scallop. They're meaty, they're tender, and they just flake right apart in your mouth. Growing up in New England, honestly, I was never a fried clam guy, but now as an adult, I am. So cheers to the fried clam. Now I'm gonna shift a little bit to this lobster roll. Love the lobster meat. A little bit of mayonnaise on there, fresh squeezed lemon, lettuce, and a toasted hot dog roll. Can't go wrong with that. It's really fresh, really delicious, fresh off the water. How can you beat having a lobster roll right on the water in Plymouth? Get down to Plymouth, over to the water, come to Wood Seafood, meet owner Jay Kimball, and get some of this delicious seafood. Fried clams, fried scallops, and of course, the lobster roll. Make your own fisherman's platter. There is so much to see and do here in Plymouth. Sometimes you gotta run. Plymouth, Massachusetts, established in 1620, built in 1820, and now more than 400 years later is thriving. Did you know that Plymouth is the oldest town in Massachusetts? I didn't know that. A lot of towns in New England have great history. Most have amazing restaurants. Plymouth has both. But what Plymouth also has is an incredible performing arts and culture scene, like the Spire Center for the Performing Arts.
Not to be outdone, and just a short walk from the Spire is another beautiful venue, Plymouth Memorial Hall. The Pilgrims were humble people, determined to build new lives far from religious persecution in a new world. My next destination has been preserving and sharing their story for hundreds of years.
Pilgrim Hall Museum is the oldest continually operating museum in the country, and it houses the largest collection of pilgrim possessions in the entire world. That's where we're going next.
Today, I'm meeting with Executive Director Donna Curtin to learn more about the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people who were here 13,000 years earlier.
Walk me through a little bit about the history because it's fascinating.
The Pilgrim story goes back 400 years to 1620, when a group of English separatists decided that they needed to leave their homeland in order to worship freely. They lived in exile for 12 years in Holland, and it was difficult for them. And so they decided to take a very perilous step and make the journey to America. That was the core of this group that arrived here in 1620. They encountered a very different culture when they arrived, the Wampanoag people that had been here for many thousands of years. And that, in a nutshell, is the story that this museum has been trying to tell for almost the last 200 years.
Pilgrim Hall Museum is the oldest continuously operating museum in the country. Is that correct?
There were museums that started earlier, but they did not survive. And our museum has had its doors open for 199 solid years, and our organization is even a few years older than that. We've cracked the 200-year mark.
In the same space?
Yes, operating right here. We are in the original purpose-built hall of Pilgrim Hall Museum. And some of these artworks have been on the wall since the day we opened in 1824. So this, Greg, is one portion of the Plymouth tapestry that's being made for Pilgrim Hall Museum to continue telling the story of early Plymouth. And it's a way for us to be able to tell the full complexity of this story in a new and really visually arresting way.
This is a really impressive maze you have down here, Donna. I love all these exhibits down here. What is this recreation of the Mayflower here?
This is actually one of my favorite pieces in the museum. It was made on commission by Pilgrim Hall Museum back in about 1920 in Greenwich, England. And at that point, Plymouth was observing the 300th anniversary of the Pilgrims, and they wanted to have a replica of the Mayflower. So they commissioned these naval experts over in England to make this beautiful model of a ship. It's got about 1,500 individual pieces of timber pinned together.
Pilgrim Hall Museum houses an extraordinary collection of artifacts, paintings, and exhibits. It's amazing to me that when Pilgrim Hall opened, the U.S. was being led by just her 5th president, James Monroe, the last president from the Founding Fathers. With its location right on the ocean, excellent seafood is kind of to be expected. What I did not expect was to find an authentic Korean dining experience right downtown at Kogi.
I'm here with Patty, owner of Kogi here in downtown Plymouth. Patty, walk me through a little bit about what visitors to Plymouth can expect when they come to Kogi.
Most of the food is a take on traditional Korean food. You know, we have our dosa bibimbap, which means stone bowl rice dish. And bibimbap historically is the leftovers from people's meals, and you put it together on a rice dish and eat it. And then we have our Western influence, like our Kogi fries.
What about specialty drinks here at Kogi?
So we have a full bar. We have our cocktails, which we change up every season, but also geared to the younger people is the bubble tea.
Okay, am I gonna try a bubble tea today?
Yes, you are, but we're gonna do an adult version. We're gonna put some rum in there for you. And we call it bubble trouble because we put enough booze in there for it to be yummy, but yet you can't taste it. So that's where the trouble comes in.
Yeah, that is a lot of trouble.
Bubble tea, also known as boba, is a Taiwanese drink that was invented in the 1980s. The tea is mixed with milk or fruits and topped off with chewy tapioca pearls, but in my case, I opted for the mango-flavored boba.
This is bubble tea served in a very cute panda dispensing device. It is green tea, peach syrup, mango bubbles, and in this case, rum. Shake it up a little bit. I have no idea what I'm in for. I don't think I've ever had a bubble tea in my life. This is super fun to drink. I gotta stop. Believe me, folks, it's not the rum. It's the bubbles. Bubble trouble here at Kogi. I love ramen. It is one of my favorite things to eat on a New England winter day. This one is an authentic Korean ramen. The broth is king in the ramen world. Ooh, that's got a kick to it. That's a delicious heat. Not too spicy, not too hot. I might be making a special trip to Plymouth just for this ramen at Kogi. Hello? That's pretty cool, an old English-style telephone booth right here in downtown Plymouth.
Plymouth has an incredible history waiting to be discovered. But what you may not know is that this small town has a huge golf scene as well, at courses like Crosswinds. Hidden in plain sight among the many treasures of Plymouth is Town Brook, the idyllic location where the Pilgrims built their first homes to take advantage of the cool springs and fresh water supply after their first harrowing and dangerous winter. Today, David Gould is among those working hard to preserve not just the story, but the land it happened on.
David, tell me a little bit about the significance of the location we're standing at today.
So today we're adjacent to the Plymouth Gristmill, which is located on Town Brook, a couple hundred yards from Plymouth Harbor and Plymouth Rock. And Town Brook is incredibly important historically because this was the location where the Pilgrims first set up their first homes, but it's also the site of a pretty historic herring run, which is happening actually this time of year.
Can you tell me a little bit about what people can expect from their time here in Plymouth?
Town Brook empties into Plymouth Harbor. You can actually walk all the way from Plymouth Harbor up to Billington Sea, which is the headwaters of Town Brook. And along that trail, you'll see the gristmill. You'll see a myriad of different parks. You'll also see 5 dam removal restoration sites. So you get this wonderful walk through not only the downtown area, but in the upper part of the watershed, it becomes very wooded and very peaceful. It's just a great walk and see a lot of historic sites along the way.
So David, talk to me a little bit about the significance of Town Brook to the story of the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people.
So long before the Pilgrims came here, the Wampanoags were being good stewards of this resource, which in the springtime, both American eels and river herring would come up into the stream to get up to the headwater pond to spawn. It became a food source, it became a fresh water source, and it became something that they could also use to fertilize crops as they grew the colony here.
David Gould, thank you very much for sharing the story of the environment and the preservation efforts that are happening here in Plymouth.
My trip to Plymouth so far has definitely been an educational trip back to my childhood where I learned this story on grade school field trips. If you want to take an actual step back into the 17th century, you can visit an English village that is frozen in time right here in Plymouth at Plymouth Patuxet. Here you will encounter people wearing period clothing and playing the role of an actual inhabitant of Plymouth in the 1600s. You'll hear and see history played out in an interactive environment that puts you in the action. Modern-day guides are also on hand to interpret history and help you better understand life in 17th century Plymouth. You can't come to Plymouth without a visit to what is quite possibly the most famous rock in the world.
We are here at Plymouth Rock, which is said to be the actual disembarkation point of the Pilgrims when they landed in Plymouth. Did they actually step off the Mayflower onto this rock? Well, that is certainly up for debate. What is definitely true is that Plymouth Rock is America's smallest rock with the largest significance.
You may be surprised to learn that Plymouth Rock was never referred to by the Pilgrims in any of their writings. It wasn't until 1880 that 1620 was inscribed on the rock. Today, it rests safely beneath a massive granite canopy and still attracts visitors from around the world. When I went searching for an upscale tavern-style dining experience in town, locals turned me on to Martini's Bar and Grill. Owner Joe Ferret has been winning over locals and travelers alike with his unique menu at this warmly decorated pub right in the heart of downtown.
Tell me about the food. What am I going to be eating tonight?
Well, we got several items I hope you try. So one is going to be the lobster ravioli, which comes with the lobster raviolis and like a lobster sauce with a couple of fried shrimp on top. We have a ribeye steak that we do caramelized onions on. And we do a short rib that we actually braise for 20 minutes and then we slow cook for 4 hours.
What am I going to be drinking tonight?
A blonde hair, blue-eyed martini.
A blonde hair, blue-eyed martini? I have to order that.
My name is Zach. I'm a bartender here at Martini's Bar and Grill. Today, we're gonna be making a blonde hair, blue-eyed martini. We're gonna start off here with about 1.5 ounces of Malibu rum. We're gonna go with 1.5 ounces of Stoli Raz. And we're gonna go with about 1 ounce of pineapple juice. Shake this up. Then we're gonna serve this in a nice chilled martini glass. And for added effect, we add the blue carousel on top. The blonde hair, blue eye martini.
My fiancée, Deborah, has blonde hair and blue eyes. So it's in her honor that I am drinking this because I also know she loves martinis. Really does remind me of summertime. And I could definitely see myself ordering a couple of these because they're not too strong, very sweet, fruity, kind of just like I like them. Cheers, Deborah. If I see a steak on a menu, I'm less likely to take a chance on it because personally, I think I cook a better steak than many people. The beef short rib was a definite first choice for me. It's light, it's tender, it melts in your mouth. Let's see if Martini's beef short rib stands up to the test. Let's stop the show right here. Okay, box checked. Good job, Martinis. Who are you a descendant of?
I'm a descendant of Alex Allerton, one of the passengers on the Mayflower.
Plymouth is a great place to explore, and when you need a rest from all that exploration, head over to Mayflower Brewing Company, a place where old meets new in historic Plymouth.
Tell me a little bit about the history of Mayflower Brewing Company.
We've been around since 2008, and we started really as an idea to bring beer to Plymouth to celebrate the history of the town and the legacy of beer and the Pilgrims.
Where can people find Mayflower Brewing Company?
Well, we sell throughout New England, and we also sell in New York City, but the bulk of our distribution is really here in Massachusetts.
So walk me through the beers that I'm going to be tasting with you today, Drew.
First one is Crispy Business.
All right, cheers. I love that. I do love a German beer, and I do like Kolsch.
This is Leisure Mode, and this is our 4.5% New England IPA.
Leisure Mode.
Yeah.
Going down. Serious citrus in this, and I really enjoy that. Okay, and last but not least, we have the porter. #1 porter in North America, #3 in the world.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, coffee, chocolate, definitely.
And there's a little hint of smokiness.
All right, I feel like Big Ben is in the background here, waiting the gong. Can't beat that, #3 in the world.
I really enjoyed my time hanging out with Drew Brasso at Mayflower Brewing Company. I sampled some delicious beer, and the tap room is now my new favorite place to hang out. Now it's time to head to another Mayflower, Mayflower II.
One of my favorite things to do is to experience history that you could actually interact with. And that's what I'm about to do right now here at Mayflower II, which is an actual recreation of the original Mayflower vessel that carried the Pilgrims all the way to Plymouth in 1620. Let's go check it out. Tom, you can't tell the story of the Pilgrims and their voyage to Plymouth, landing at Plymouth Rock, without the story of the Mayflower. And you can't tell the story of the Mayflower now without the Mayflower II, which is where we are today. So talk to me about that.
That's right. If you want to experience what history might have been like in that full 360 environment, you got to come see Mayflower II. It's standing across from these boards. You understand the 102 people who crammed inside those decks and braved 66 days in a wintry sea across the Atlantic to come here to start a new life.
I love history, but what I love even more than history is history that you can interact with. Like you said, this 360 environment. You can come on the ship and just live on it, really. It's amazing.
Yeah, you can see all aspects of what life at sea would have been like in the 17th century, from down below here in the 'tween decks to up to see some of the navigation and where the crew would have been doing all their work. You know, we were talking about the 102 passengers living down below for 66 days. We said there were 30 crew members, right?
Yes.
Do you ever wonder where maybe those crew members were sleeping?
Right here? All right. I think the best way to get into here. Wow, you're right up against that beam. Ready for a nap? There you go. Oh, this shoot is exhausting. Tom, thank you very much for sharing the story of the Mayflower II with me today. I found it fascinating. I love authentic history. I love history that you can interact and experience firsthand, and this definitely checks all those boxes.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for coming to Mayflower, and thanks for coming to Plymouth.
Mayflower II is an incredible recreation of the original Mayflower. My next stop is a place I didn't even know existed until today.
Donna, we are here at Pilgrim Memorial State Park at the National Monument to the Forefathers. Explain to me the significance of this beautiful monument behind me.
Well, this is all about history and how people want to remember it. It is a commemoration, and back a couple centuries ago, the people of Plymouth began to realize their history was significant, and they wanted to have ways to memorialize it. So this was one vision for how that history would be represented in a monumental statue that people would come and visit and be able to learn a little bit about the story.
That's going to be a challenge to get people past that idea of what a forefather really means in this country.
I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
What do our ancestors mean to us? And there's so many different ways we can approach that question from many different cultural perspectives as well.
True.
But here in Plymouth, it brings you to the story of the Mayflower Pilgrims. And that's what the people of Plymouth were thinking about when they came up with the idea in 1820, let's do something to commemorate our history. They got a designer finally pinned down in 1855 and laid the cornerstone for this grand monument. At that time, there were about 7,000 people that came from all over the region to see the cornerstone for this monument laid. Abraham Lincoln contributed to the building of this monument. $10.
$10. 2 Lincolns. That's awesome.
So they finally completed it and dedicated the statue in 1889. And it's pretty impressive, although I will tell you the original plan was for it to be twice as big.
Really?
I had an amazing time relearning the history I learned in school in historic Plymouth, Mass. At Pilgrim Hall Museum, Donna Curtin shared the story of the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people. I visited the historic site of Plymouth Rock and the National Monument to the Forefathers, an impressive granite statue overlooking Plymouth Harbor. Finally, I climbed aboard Mayflower II for a tour of an accurate, full-scale recreation of the original Mayflower. I hope you enjoyed this trip to historic Plymouth, Massachusetts. I'm Greg Bogosian. I'll see you next time on New England Traveler.